This is Romo Dunze, and you're listening to the Ballsville Podcast.
Thank you so much, man. Appreciate it.
Touchdown! The Bills make me wanna shout. Kick your heels up and shout. Throw your hands up and shout. Throw your head back and shout. Come on now.
What is up, my Ballsville brethren? How y'all doing today? We got 4 friends here today. My name is Sean. I am here with the Ballsville Pod, the narrative, ready to roll, having a great time with you guys. Just got to tell you guys, this episode today is brought to you by the Ballsville Group. We combine poker and fantasy, creating the best payouts with the greatest odds. We have redraft leagues going right now, $25, $50, $100 stakes. We posted a link in the comments to the Draft Hub. Feel free to jump in there. All the leagues that are available are there right now for you guys. Thank you so much for being here. We are excited. Obviously, it is myself hosting today. Scott is out having a great time on a boat, drinking lots of alcohol. So we cheers to him. I hope he's having a good time. I'd like to introduce you to my guests. I got everybody's favorite appliance, Mr. Ken Moore, back again. How you doing, Ken?
What's going on, guys? Another great episode ahead.
Thank you, my friend. It's good to see you. It's good to see you. We got a good friend of ours, been on the pod before. Everybody knows him as the slow man on the draft. His name is Tortoise. How you doing, Trevor?
What's going on, Ballsville? Cheers.
And we have a very special guest today, everybody's favorite producer, the one dropping all these wonderful sounds and musics and all this great stuff that's going on in the background, Miss Sara M. Wonderful Sara, how are you today?
What is up? What's up, everybody? I am doing great. Excited to finally be here. And of course, Scott's not here when I'm here, but got a good group here, so I'm excited.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, Sara. Like, where you're from, how long you've been playing fantasy, how'd you get in with the Ballsville Group?
For sure. Originally born and raised down in Southern California, Burbank area, Los Angeles area. Lived in San Diego for a while, became a Chargers fan. Not really that happy with their move to LA, but hey, you know, San Diego didn't appreciate us, so maybe something better will happen. I started using Sleeper about 4 years ago, and only about a year and a half ago found out that there was things other than just a regular standard draft. So I started going crazy with guillotines and auctions, and I didn't even know best balls existed for like the first 2 years, and got a little crazy, got a little too crazy, but I did find Ballsville last year. And I joined a couple of leagues, but I wasn't really like paying attention to the Instagram or whatever. But then this year, when Alex started making them again, I was like, oh, cool. I remember this group. This was really fun. And I started to jump in again. And then you guys started the podcast. And so I reached out to Alex in a private message because he knew me from last year. And I was like, hey, I'm a musician. I produce some music. So like, if you ever need any music or original things, sounds or anything for the podcast. And he was like, oh yeah, dude, let me introduce you to my podcast crew. And here I got you guys put me in charge of putting silly sounds on the show. I couldn't ask for anything better.
And you're doing such a great job of all those silly sounds.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely. It's good to have you guys, have all of you guys today. So let's roll into a little bit of news.
Oh, ready?
There she is. So favorite, one of my favorite clips, everybody. Anchor Guy is an amazing movie if you haven't seen it. So we don't have a ton of news. You know, this time of year, there's never a lot of news out there. So we picked a couple of things that we thought might be a little bit fantasy relevant that we should talk about today. So first thing we want to talk about a little bit with you guys is Tyreek Hill coming out for the first time that I can remember in a while now, talking about how I want a new deal. I'm seeing all these receivers getting paid. I feel like I could use a new deal. So the question I want to pose to the panel here is, with that news, with Tyreek talking about wanting a new deal, every other time all I've heard is, you know, I'm playing this deal out and I'm retiring. I've got better things to do with my life, blah, blah, blah. Now all of a sudden he wants his new deal. Does this change where you draft him in a dynasty league? I'll start with you, Tortoise. Go for it.
I don't see how much higher you could be taking him. I mean, he's usually coming off the board, like second or third. So I mean, are you going to move him to 1? Like
In the Dynasty League, he's dropping, my friend.
Oh, really?
In Dynasty Leagues, he's dropping down there. So because everybody assumes that he's only a 2-year rental at this point. So he's not going like, redraft. Yeah, he's in the top 2 still. But when you're talking
with all these people getting these major contracts and they're just throwing money left and right at these receivers, I mean, I don't blame the man for trying to get the bag again. And even if he has 2 years left on the deal, you know how the NFL works. They'll just cut you and waste the money on the last year anyway. So why not refresh it and maybe get 2 years like he wants to do?
Yeah. You got anything on that one, Ken?
So I think for me, because I love being in the world of Dynasty, for me, this doesn't change where he goes. He's still, I believe he's 30 now. And, Tyreek is, he's going to be one of those oddballs. I don't think his drop-off comes for a while, but he is still up in age. So for me, this doesn't move him up at all in terms of where I take him in a Dynasty, startup, but it also doesn't drop him at all either. It just keeps him in the same spot.
Sarah, is your opinion any different, or is it pretty much the same?
It's boring, but yeah, I totally agree with Ken. I don't think it's going to drop. I mean, if it does drop, it's maybe going to be like 3 or 4 spots. I think he's going to, when it comes to an auctions point of view, I mean, redraft, obviously he's always going expensive no matter what, but that's different, right? So but with Dynasty, I feel like in an auction, he might drop a couple dollars for a Dynasty auction. He might drop a couple places, but I don't think he's dropping 2 rounds or anything like that in the draft.
I feel like the last startup that I did, I want to say he went in the early 3rd, I feel like was where he went. I want to say 3-2, 3-3. So would you take him ahead of that normally, even with or without?
It depends on who else is on the board, right? I mean, I'm still going to take him.
Depends on who else is on the board.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to take him before certain players. But I mean, even in the draft that we did, I took AJ Brown before Tyreek Hill, even before this. So
let me throw a couple names out there then. Are you taking Neighbors or Garrett Wilson ahead of Tyreek Hill?
Maybe Garrett Wilson, not Neighbors.
What about you, Ken?
I'm definitely taking Garrett Wilson over Hill, and I will take Neighbors over Hill too. So here's kind of how I look at it. Eventually, there is a precedent in the fantasy world when people don't want aging players, and the last thing you want to do is get caught with one of those aging guys, and he kind of like dies on your team. So for me, it's like I have a cutoff age for players and I just won't touch them anymore. Hawkinson will be the one outlier that I will let him just stay on my, fantasy team until he retires, So rather than that, I probably would not take Tyreek Hill even in the early 3rd. It would probably have to be late 3rd, early 4th for me.
So you were down on him before this news came out at all. So at this point, it's like you really don't care whether or not he signs an extension. You're not drafting where he's getting drafted.
I will not draft him at all unless the value is through the roof for where he drops on the board. Just because I don't want to get stuck.
What if he signs hypothetical? What if he signs 4-year, 2-year extension on top of his current 2 more years, and he signed through 2027?
I don't know if he could beat Father Time. I would say yes, but for me,
I mean, if there's anybody that can, I mean, that guy is
I still wouldn't do that with Tyreek.
No.
I mean, he was even getting good fantasy points when he had injuries he was playing through. So I mean, he's one tough guy.
So would you take him over Puka?
No.
Well, how far are we pushing him down? Are you taking Waddle over him?
No, I'd probably take him. I'd try to take Tyreek before Waddle.
I'd take Hill over Waddle because I think Waddle gets just even touched and he comes out of the game with an injury.
What about London?
I'd take London over Hill.
That's a tough one for me. I'm not big on the London hype yet. I gotta see. I just not even just because it's London, but also because I have an unpopular opinion about Cousins as well. So.
I still think like Tyreek's probably up there in my top 10, even for Dynasty, just because I'm playing in like a 2 to 3 year window. So
I agree. And see, that's where I'm at with it too. Like this, it doesn't change my opinion on where he's being drafted right now. but it does intrigue me that there is a potential in the near future. Like I said, that hypothetical scenario, if we got a 4-year deal, which adds 2 years to his current 2 more years, then, that point, I'm looking at this guy as like he's a 3-year build. Like, that's how I always look at things. So now at a 3-year build and window, like, how could I turn him down? He's been literally the best scoring receiver over the last few years that we've had. So
I don't think this will raise, in my opinion, will raise him up draft boards. But what it will do is it will prolong his trade value in fantasy.
you think his trade value took a nice bump if he does actually end up getting any kind of an extension?
I think his trade value will stay where it's at for a longer period of time.
Where do you have him at now, value-wise? Like a first and second, maybe?
Yeah.
Okay. I like it. I mean, we'll see what happens. It'd be really crazy to see him sign a deal and then the melee that happens behind that. Because in my opinion, I think that it will affect a lot of people on where they're going to draft him. And I think he starts going way ahead of where, somebody like Ken, who obviously isn't happy with where he's being drafted now, would even consider him. So,
but what is he really signing for? Is he getting like Amon-Ra money?
I'm not sure what he was. Basically, he was very vague about it. All he kind of said was, he'd like to see where he falls in this mix. So my guess is that he just wants a bump up on his remaining years and maybe add 1 more year to get himself some money. That's just my, sitting at home watching on the couch opinion. So
Yeah, totally. Someone in the chat says, "What if he signed with a team like the Chiefs?"
Well, we already saw what that worked out like, right?
That's true because he's already been there.
I do like Alex says he'd agree about London. He doesn't like his projected ceiling, which I mean, I agree
people are paying real top dollar for him.
Drafted at the top of his, projection with Cousins. I think everybody's been salivating for him to be good for so long, and he's just had bad quarterbacks holding him back that now they're like hoping that this is he needed to take that next step. So
yeah,
he's
exactly.
still very young.
I think Cousins was good because of St. Brown, honestly. So I really don't, and Hawk. So I don't know. I don't know what he's going to do in Atlanta. We'll see. I mean, he's got Pitts. He's got London.
Squad that was pretty bad, and then went to the Minnesota and had them pretty much competitive every year he was there. So I don't consider him to be great, but I don't think he's that bad.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he's got good weapons, so he can do something.
Awesome. All right. So next topic. I know Sarah's very excited to talk about this one. So the next little nugget, I would say not so much news, more of a nugget, that Herbert came out the other day talking about his new rookie receiver, Ladd McConkey. And his exact quote was, "He's just picked up the offense so easily. It's like he's been a 4 or 5 year vet." So my question to you, the panel, is: do you think that this projects Ladd now to be for sure the number one in the offense there as far as wide receivers are concerned? And does that move the needle on his draft stock? His current ADP sleeper in our redraft leagues that we currently are doing for Ballsville, he's at 97.4 ADP. So, what is your guys' opinion on that? Do you think he can go up, down? Do you think that it's a rightful move if he goes up or down? Give me some thoughts.
Yeah, I'll start. So as someone that has been watching the Chargers for many, many, many years, I would say that every time the Chargers draft a wide receiver, I get excited about it, even though it does barely ever pans out, right? So like last year, I was taking QJ in my rookie drafts at 107. I was taking him before who was the other one? I was taking for JNS. And, I was just like, it's going to happen. We got it because Big Mike's getting older and he gets hurt all the time. Keenan's getting older. And, I still have hopes that QJ is going to be solid this year. I think he's a good player. But because Josh Palmer already has a good relationship, like throwing relationship with Justin, and because Ladd still is a rookie coming in and having to learn everything, I think that there's a good chance that he could end up a number one guy. I don't know if it's going to be right away. But I think that people were already high on him. Like in all the auctions I'm in, he's going higher than Worthy. He's going higher than Brian Thomas and some of them in price. So I'm thinking that people are already high on him anyway. So I think this is just going to like solidify it for them and keep taking him. But I definitely think it's going to make him go higher in regular drafts, like 100%.
Do you consider that a justified move? Would you still take him?
I mean, I probably
say it's 75 now instead of 94. Do you take him there?
Yeah, like in a dynasty, I'd probably try to take him a little earlier, like because I've been waiting too long. Even like a lot of people were already hyping up on him early, mainly because we lost both Keenan and Mike, so we're just like going at everybody right now. But I mean, it's like I'm definitely going to try and get him a couple rounds earlier than I was trying before. And I will pay up for him in an auction that's dynasty, right? Like he's probably going to go in a $250 dynasty. He's probably going to go over $15, $16, $17. But in the redrafts, he's been going for like 12, 13, 14, unless you got some crazy guys in there. So, I mean, people do wild things in the auctions. But yeah, no, I think it's going to make him a little more spicy. I think it's going to make him come up. Doesn't mean that he's going to perform the way people are picking him. But I definitely think people are going to start taking him earlier.
All right. What about you, Ken? Let's get a non-biased opinion over here. Since
I've
love with Lad.
I've been a big fan of Lad, even way back at the beginning, even before people were starting to get hyped up on him. Dynasty draft, rookie drafts, for example. Worthy, Brian Thomas were always going before Lad, and I'm like, oh, perfect. I'll get Lad. Last pick in the first round of the rookie draft, pick 201, and I love it. And now I think people are starting to pick up on it. Like, hey, I think we should be going after Lad now because I've started to see some changes in how people have drafted. So I think for me, I don't think Johnson is going to be anything good in the NFL. His hands, he needs to do something because they're rocks when I see him trying to catch a football. I think McConkey and Palmer are going to be the 1-2 in that offense. And then, Johnson will be there for some cleanup here and there. But I think McConkey is going to be the one that takes over for that offense.
Well, didn't they sign a tight end, was it Hunter Hurst, I believe, this offseason to jump in there, right? I mean, come on.
They did. They did. I don't have high hopes for him, but they did. I mean, he had like amnesia for a minute, didn't he? Like last year. I mean, I don't see a lot of stuff.
Body guy and
it's like Parham. We like our concussions for our TEs.
Right. It must be the weather out down there in San Diego. Maybe it'll get better now they're in LA. Trevor, you got anything you want to say about this Lad talk?
I like Lad, and I like what the Chargers seem to be like, what they're trying to do, but he keeps climbing up the draft boards. I don't know if I'm going to really own any shares of him this year. I'd rather wait a couple rounds and take like a Josh Palmer, who I think could probably lead the team in fantasy points.
And so nobody got up for QJ, huh?
I was going to say, what about Shark? Does anybody think he's going to add anything?
Who?
Shark.
Who?
TJ. Baby Shark.
I actually liked DJ for a while, and he let me down, so I'm a little bitter. But no, I mean, I think people are too low on Quentin Johnston. I mean, they did draft him where they drafted him. I don't think he's that bad. I know he had some drop issues, but everybody has some nervous drop issues. Jamar Chase started out that way in the preseason. Granted, didn't bleed over to his whole rookie season, but I'm not ready to just throw in the towel yet, man. The guy's got talent. He's got ability. And he was drafted to be the number one. I don't think they're just going to give up on him already. So if he has a bad year this year and he's not developing and he's dropping passes, then he's not going to be there. He'll be the next Denzel Mims. But for now, I'm just going to wait out and see how it plays out.
I think Rice has a better season than Johnson.
What?
Really? You think Rice has Rashee Rice you're talking about?
I just think that guy's going to play with a chip on his shoulder all season long. His dad is going to be hyping him up, training him nonstop. I just think that Rice is just going to – I just think Rice is going to have a big part in that offense.
Yeah, I could see that too. I like him coming out and having your dad, Jerry Rice, your dad. Like that changes everything, man. I mean, he's got the work ethic like nobody else. So if he got any of that type of work ethic in him, then the kid's going to come out and show that he's worth it. So, but I still don't think QJ is going to be that bad. Really don't. I think if Brendan steps up, it'll be Palmer that ends up being the one on the sidelines.
They better be giving him the ball in the backfield then.
So I'm the only one on the QJ train.
Yeah, I still have hope for him. I still kept him in all the leagues that I picked him up in last year in my rookie draft.
Put some of that stick on his hands and maybe he'll catch it.
Oh,
Oh man! All right, well let's move on since I feel like I'm being attacked now for my QJ. But so we want to go into some auction talk. We got Sara here; she's our auction extraordinaire. So we wanted to kind of give Sara the floor, let her give us an opportunity to kind of see how these auctions work and get some ideas on what to expect for auction leagues. So Sara, the floor is yours.
Oh boy, how exciting. Okay, so yeah, I'm not going to get too much into it. Just the basics of auctions is that you get a budget, a total budget. You get to spend on your guys, and you're up against everyone else in the league. I do a lot of best balls, but I've done plenty of dynasties as well. So obviously that changes the price, just like it would change the place they go in a regular draft. So 200 to 250 is your basic budget that you're going to get in most of your auction leagues. And you're going to have usually a tight end premium of 0.5 or 1, sometimes none. The most basic setup is standard would be only 4 points, touchdown passes, no tight end premium, no bonuses, like just basic, like touchdowns for wide receivers 6, touchdowns for our running back 6. So that's the most basic. Barely anybody ever leaves it that basic. At the very least, they'll give you a 6-point TD pass for the QBs, and maybe like a 0.5 or a 1 point tight end premium. I've been in some crazy ones. I've hosted some crazy ones where I do tons of bonuses. I love that kind of stuff. But you get into that later once you've done them for a while. So basically the basics, the super basics, I just have this little video that I can share that I took while doing a draft. And this is just, and feel free to chime in anytime you want, guys, but this is just what it looks like on my mobile phone. So I just did like a screen video. My mobile phone, here's Jalen Hurts. I'm using the plus button over here by the number at the bottom. You can also click on the number and manually type in a number. But if you can see up by under everyone's name, there's a max bid, and then right next to it, there's a little bit more money. It's because they want to make sure that you never run out of money and you always have enough to at least spend $1 until your team is full. So you can't ever like just max out and have $0 with only 5 players or whatever. So this is a typical 250 budget draft with a 0.5 tight end premium. Jalen Hurts went for $37 and $37, and Josh Allen went for $40. That's actually really high for a 250 as far as like that. Those are your, like, Josh Allen's the top quarter. He goes for the most every time. So Patrick Mahomes, I'm going to click on the number. I already did that there. Josh Allen goes for more than Patrick Mahomes like every time now. I guess people are upset at Patrick from last year. So you see he's going to go $2 under. So you see people's chat. So you can go on here and you can like click set your queue and everything. If you leave the draft and you just like forget about it and you have auto on, you're going to end up with like only 4 players because the auto bid is going to jump you to like $50-$60 on people. And yeah, you don't want to be autoed unless you got $1 left, and you don't want anyone else there to auto, because if someone goes on auto, it's just going to jump up as high as possible. It's going to like go above and beyond what their projected price is, and you're going to be screwed. You're going to have no money left by the time you remembered you were in an auction. So that's just the basic. And then what I wanted to talk about was the strategies, the main 2 strategies that you're going to see. And I'll tell you who I am. I think Sean and I kind of do some similar strategies, but not quite. Studs and duds is what I call the first one. And that's for the guys that just love to just spend right away. They want to get JJ. They want to get St. Brown. They want to get Josh Allen or Patrick or Stroud. Those are like the top 3. And then they want to, and then they're going to have like maybe $85 left. And then they just sit and wait until guys go cheap, which is a long time. So they end up with like a nice 5 or 6 guy lineup, and then the rest of their guys they're just hoping that they catch a sleeper, or they'll catch some rookies that are going for low because they're hoping that they hit, especially in a redraft. So I definitely do not play this strategy because I just hate sitting in an auction and watching guys go that I can't afford. I just want to buy everybody. And just like Sean, I like to nominate guys who I don't want first so that I can like get everyone else to spend all their money so that by the time my guys come up, I can outbid them because the guys that want all the studs, they've already, spent all their money. Everyone's different in that way. Then there's the penny pincher. That's 100% me. I am the penny pincher. I will drive prices up. So let's say someone like Olave pops up. People are willing to pay for Olave. They're not as much as St. Brown, obviously, or Garrett Wilson or anything, but they're definitely going to push that price up to around like 22, 21, 22, 23, which is about the high end for him on a 250 budget. So if people are sitting there just going like $1, $2, $3, I'll just get in there. I'll bump it up to like 19, like a price I know that's going to be too low for him. But hey, if everybody doesn't want him, then I'll take him for only 19. But that way it'll just rush it up and people will just start bidding higher. So nobody's trying to get discounts, right? Except for me. I'm always trying to get discounts. No, but really, I will spend up on specific guys. Like if you have guys that you love, it's kind of like an outside strategy, but you just really are willing to spend a lot on specific guys, put them up, spend the money, and then you can just sit and wait, and then kind of like get a more well-balanced team, as I like to put it. Like the studs and does team is like the very misbalanced team, but it can still hit. It still works. I've seen it work. And the penny pincher I've also seen work because that's what I did all year last year, where I was very meticulous and I would spend up once in a while. Like I've gotten JJ for low prices before when people didn't know for sure, if he's going to be fully healthy earlier in the year. But in general, these are the two main ones you're going to see. There are some other tricky strategies you can do, but really this is like what you're going to have to do is learn your league, right? Because when you're playing with enough people, and especially if we start doing paid auctions in Ballsville, which I'd be super stoked if that happened, you'll learn all the people because you'll see a lot of the same people in your league. So you'll know who people like. There's certain players, certain managers that I play with where I just know, like, I know I'm not getting A-Rich, my buddy Nick that we do a league with. I know I'm not getting A-Rich if I'm in a league with him because he'll go broke for him. He'll pay ridiculous amounts of money just to make sure A-Rich is on his team.
So do you outbid on A-Rich? Do you overbid because you know he's going to outbid you every time?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's such a good strategy. And like 100% yes, right? So if he's like sitting there at $30 and I know this guy's going to pay up to 50 for him if it gets that high, then I'm definitely going to push it. Like I'm not going to push it so high that I take the risk of like actually getting stuck with him and paying $45, but I'll push it up to 40 because I know he'll pay 41, or whatever the case is. And no one else is willing to pay it. So,
That's what Sean does to me every auction draft. Tries to bully me into making picks, and then it always bites him in the ass.
That is not my style at all. Everybody who drafts me knows I am not a bully at all.
Ends up with like 3 quarterbacks on his team because he's trying to pigeonhole me. And
so, like, honestly, and I love the way that you approach that, Sarah, with two different strategies. Because to me, I look at that like, the mama bear, right? Like for me, the perfect strategy is that baby bear kind of right in the middle. I like to snag a couple of guys that I know I want, and then I'll sit back and let everybody else snag up all their guys until it gets to about those, mid-round guys that you normally would take pretty happily in like the 4th, 5th, 6th round and be okay with them. Those are the guys that you're snagging for what, $15, $16. You can build an entire roster that way and spend I like obviously Josh Allen, so I spend my money on Josh and
really had no clue.
Pay for him and then wait a little bit and start snagging other guys. So everybody does.
That's a good way to do it too. Yeah, absolutely. Actually, my buddy Tanner is in here right now in the YouTube chat. One of the things that I actually saw him doing a little bit earlier this year that I actually thought was a really great idea was before the rookies were starting to get hype. It was like right after the draft. We didn't know anything, like, how they were doing in practice or anything. He was getting these rookies cheap, but he was nominating them first. He was nominating guys he knew nobody was going to bid too high up on. So he'd spend $10, $8, $6, $7 on all these guys that he knew he wanted as his sleepers. And then everyone's spending all this money. And then, he's only got 9 spots left to fill, and he's got all this money. So he just outbid everybody for everybody else and got all these guys to fill the rest of the spot. I mean, it was a pretty smart strategy, I thought.
It's a weird balancing game in auction leagues because you don't really know what people are going to bid on what, and sometimes the price can get driven up when you're not expecting it. And when I'm in an auction, I have my tiers of my players, kind of like a snake draft, and I'm not always the one to jump the highest on like a Christian McCaffrey and blow 75% of my budget, but you definitely don't want to wait till the end of the tier either, because then that price gets inflated too, because the rest of the league sees like maybe Derrick Henry's the last decent running back on the board, and now all of a sudden his price goes way up because everybody's panicking like, oh, this is the last running back now.
Right. Yeah, you never know what you're going to get. You got to know your league members for sure. Ken,
you got to
do
be
any
careful with
auctions?
nominations, because you'll be hoping that, oh, I'm not going to nominate this guy. He'll know he won't get nominated. And then all of a sudden, bam, he's nominated like super early. Everybody's got money and his price just shoots up right away. And you're like, man, that was one of my sleepers. If you don't have a backup plan in place, then you're going to be scrambling.
Yeah, people don't know what to do. Sometimes someone will like nominate like Hunter Henry in like for the fourth nomination. It was like, should I spend $5 or because he'll go for $2 at the end of the draft, but he'll go up $6 if he gets nominated too early. So it's pretty funny.
Yeah, I think that's strategy. Just scroll to the bottom of the ADP and start nominating people for $1.
I think C-Bomb hit it on the head. The more that you do, the better you get at it. I'll tell you what, my first auction was awful, and I think like the 10th or 12th one, it was, ended up being pretty good. So I just think the more you do it, like the better you kind of get at it and realize, everyone has like kind of their own strategy and their own ways. But, we all have our players that we want. Like Tortoise probably, tries to get CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott and probably Zeke now. And, we all have our players. Like, I love Hawk, so, don't bid me up on him. But, rather than that, I think it just takes practice and getting used to it, because it is very different from a redraft or, thinking about, the next kind of type of league that we're about to get into in like Dynasty and stuff like that. So.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'd love to have CeeDee Lamb on the team, but I'm definitely more of like a budget auction drafter.
Yeah, CD goes like second or third most expensive wide receiver.
I always seem to dig myself into a hole, especially if I get 2 of those big studs, and then I'm sitting here for an hour maybe and not getting no bids, and it's not fun at that point.
Really I like being able to have your sleepers though that are your gem guys that not very many people are into, and you're going to be able to get them at, because you're going to bid more than anybody else will by $1 or $2 most times is all you need. But you're willing to do that because this guy's going to be great. And at the end of the draft, if you play your cards right, you can get almost every one of those guys that you like that.
Totally. Sean, you and I haven't done an auction together yet, so I have a feeling we'd go head to head a lot.
Well, you're supposed to, but then you build out and had some sort of like stand-in show up for
my buddy Tanner. I was going to do it for Scott. It was actually third in line for Scott's team.
That's so funny. Awesome. Well, that was great talk. I love auction leagues. I think they're a lot of fun. If you guys have a chance to jump in any, please do, because you will definitely enjoy it. Like Ken said, though, your first one you might be a little upset with the way your team turns out, but you'll learn a lot. And by the second or third one, you'll be a lot happier with the outcome. So let's move on here, huh? Next, go into the next section, which is one that me and Trevor are both pretty excited about because we really, really love this style of league. So we are going to talk guillotine leagues. So Trevor, I'm going to give you the floor because you're the main man. You're the one who got me started with these leagues, and I'll let you kind of go with the breakdown on these guys and let the listeners know what these are like.
So yeah, I heard about auction leagues guillotine leagues a couple years ago, and we had always kind of talked about doing it and kind of messing around and never actually got around to it. So last year we decided, let's give it a shot. We'll do it low stakes, like $25, see if we can round up 18 guys and try to get a guillotine league going. And the basis of it is basically it's a total points league. So you're not playing head to head against anybody, and the lowest score of the week gets cut. And so basically all their players will then get dropped into the waiver wire, and then everybody has a chance to bid their fab on them, and it's kind of just crazy pandemonium at that point. And it really makes it just super exciting every week, because you're not necessarily trying to win the league, you're just trying not to come in last place. So it really is like having a playoff scenario every single week in fantasy, where you have the opportunity to get eliminated any week. So every Monday night game, it's either some guy has to do something for you or don't do something for somebody else. And it's just, you're on the edge of your seat every single Monday night game. And it's one of the funnest fantasy leagues I've ever done. And I'm kind of obsessed with them now. And I'm trying to get in as many as I can this year. So
that's awesome. I agree with you too. I'm definitely a huge fan of them. Like last season was my first season doing it with you guys, and every single week like you said, on Mondays, like you go through, I have multiple leagues, like a lot of us that are on here, can not as many as 300, but I got a good amount of leagues. So I got ones that I got to pay attention to, but by Monday night, they're usually pretty much like, okay, I know where I'm at. I'm either going to have a shot at winning this one or not. So I have 2 or 3 maybe that I pay attention to, but those Guillotine Leagues literally took all of my attention from Monday all the way through until the waiver wires hit, because as soon as Monday ends, you know exactly what players you're going to be able to pick up on the waiver wire, because you know what team is eliminated. So you're instantly looking at your next week. What are you going to do for your fab? How are you going to bid? Who are you going to bid on? What do you need on your team to make it through the next week, more so than what do you need long term? So it does definitely like add a whole different dynamic, and it makes it just like he said, like a weekly playoff scenario. So sorry to steal the show there, Trevor, but man, I definitely I really agree with you. That's a really, really fun way to play.
Yeah, it's very different draft as well, not only being because it's 18 teams. So your team is, everybody's team in week 1 is just going to be awful. But it really changes the way you would approach a draft in like a regular snake draft, because you're not only looking for the best player available, but maybe you're looking at matchups for the first 4 weeks. And then on top of that, you're looking at bye weeks, because if your quarterback has a week 5 bye and you didn't prepare for that, there's not really a whole lot of people on waiver wires, kind of like Dynasty. Like you're kind of SOL at that point. And so you kind of have to plan your team according to that. And maybe that changes your rankings a little bit. Maybe I'm going to go for a less a quarterback I have lower ranked, but maybe he's got a week 12 bye, and maybe I could pick somebody up by that point. Otherwise, you're spending all your fab early on just trying to fill that one position so you don't take a 0.
Yeah, it's really, really interesting dynamic.
I feel like the hardest part for me when it came to doing guillotines last year for the first time, where I had the trouble, was knowing how much money to spend on the waiver wire when a team gets chopped and you're like, oh, I really want this guy and I really need this, right? And then you got to, you're thinking about your bye week and stuff like that, so you can replace your studs and everything. And I spent way too much, way too early, thinking that like everybody's going to be jumping on this one really popular guy that got, chopped. And, I ended up losing probably out in the 5th round or so because I ran out of money in the waiver wire. So, I think that there's definitely a balance too, knowing how much you should be spending and how many guys you should be trying to get off the waiver wire too.
Yeah, definitely. Ken, you've been in any Guillotine Leagues yet?
So I've done a couple. Last year was kind of like the first year I got into it. Greek Canuck, who's on Sleeper, introduced me to it. And I was like, oh, this is going to be fun, going to be a great time. I take JJ. And if everyone remembers, beginning of last season, JJ had back-to-back dud weeks. And by him having that dud week, the rest of my team sucked. But him not doing his job got me taken out super early. So it was kind of like I had to wait there for like the whole season. But it was actually kind of climactic. It was actually kind of cool because I was able to see how other players were able to kind of like watch on how like they bid on players, and like I think someone said it about matchups. It was kind of interesting to me because someone who's been doing guillotines for 2 or 3 years, I was just like him and I would DM back and forth like him like tips and tricks and stuff just to kind of see like there's some people who just like won't use any fab for like the first like 2 to 3 weeks of the season to try and save it for the rest of the season when there's a lot bigger names out there. So it's kind of interesting, and I kind of look forward to it because I think we're we're going to be doing one for Ballsville. So I'm just kind of getting excited for it.
Look at Ken letting the cat out of the bag early.
Oh, trade secrets.
There's a special announcement coming later, just so you guys know. Wink, wink, hint, hint.
Yeah, it was our league last year. We had 18 guys that we knew pretty well. So it was like a close-knit group of 18 guys. And so everybody knew who was getting cut that week, and everybody's running their mouth, talking shit. Monday night, everybody's like I said, on the edge of your seat. It's just so fun. And it was everybody's first time doing it. So like Sarah was saying, I don't know if you want to go to that next slide, Sean, with the week one.
Yeah, Sarah's on the slide controls, so just let her know if you want to slide.
Okay.
Sorry,
Yeah,
I went too far. There we go. Is this
Oh,
the
actually,
one?
no, go to the next one. Sorry. That just
Yeah,
shows the draft board and how it all broke down. But this was week one. And since it was everybody's first time doing it, and nobody has really seen players like this before on the waiver wire. So we had a $200 budget, and everybody's kind of losing their mind. All my buddies are calling me and trying to get information out of me. Like, what are you doing? Who are you going after? And not necessarily asking how much you're going to bid on somebody, but everybody's just trying to figure it out. And so this guy actually spent half his budget and ended up getting Kelsey, and you could see the bids on like what was.
And we all know how that worked out.
And that kind of just sets the precedent for the weeks going forward. Like if you want that number one pick on the waivers, you're going to have to spend half your budget. At least that's how this league panned out. And actually the guy who got Kelsey ended up making it all the way to the playoffs. So I don't know if that was just luck because he had Mahomes as well. But yeah, I'm kind of in the middle where I'm not necessarily going to go after these studs right off the bat, but maybe I don't know if I have a bid in there somewhere. I don't see
you
it.
do.
Probably, Kendrick Bourne. So I spent just barely anything just to get a little bit of an upgrade at my flex position to try to give me some type of benefit going into week 2, because you don't have to win the week. Like I said, you just don't have to be last. And as Ken mentioned, like if you have a lot of budget further on in the season, it's really going to benefit you going towards those playoffs. And we were able to trade fab budget as well. So I'm picking up all these cheap guys each week, and then I'm flipping them to other teams who have missing pieces on bye weeks, and I'm taking fab from them. I'm not getting the player back, but I'm just getting the player, taking maybe $30, $40 of fab, and then rolling that into next week and grabbing another guy.
Yeah, and one of the things I do want to mention that Ken brought up is that, getting knocked out early in a Guillotine League, you still stay focused in it. The guy that got knocked out in this first week here that had drafted Kelsey, he was in the chat for the entire season, going back and forth with the rest of the guys that were playing, just paying attention to the league because he was so into how it was playing out each week with what was going to happen and who was going to get picked up and who was going to get knocked out. So you definitely stay focused on them after a while. It's not the kind of league where like, oh, I got knocked out week 1, I'm done. Like, no, you're into it. It's exciting. It's fun. It's engaging. So it's definitely the type of thing that you want to stay on and at least be sitting in the audience with your popcorn for.
So if you want to go back to the last slide for the draft.
Sorry, this thing's going off on me. This one?
Oh, no, the big draft board for the Guillotine League. So me and Sean had a couple different conversations, and we were all new to this. So I was watching videos and trying to get some type of strategy and stuff like this. So I'm the Cowboy Star, of course. But all the other teams aren't there because they've got eliminated. Sleeper doesn't have a Guillotine League yet. So we have to do everything manually ourselves and go in and drop players like that. Hopefully, this Guillotine stuff is really blowing up, and hopefully Sleeper's going to add it, sooner rather than later. But I ended up taking Jalen Hurts as my first round pick, which I would never do in a regular league. But he had such a late buy, and like Ken's concern was where he drafted Justin Jefferson, I thought I would take that risk out of my equation, and I'm going to take a high yield quarterback, and at least I'm going to lock up maybe 20 points guaranteed in my starting lineup, and then I'll try to build everything off of that later. And I think
I was very happy because I was team 12, and that allowed Josh Allen to fall to me. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
I can't believe Josh fell that far. That's great.
I couldn't.
Well, it's a one quarterback league too, so we have a really
okay.
small lineup, just 2 running back, 2 receiver, and a tight end and a flex.
Okay.
And then as the weeks went on, I think every 4 weeks we would add another bench spot, and then I think in week 8 we added an extra flex, and then for the playoffs we basically doubled everything. So it'd be, or not double, but we had 3 running backs, 3 wide receivers, 2 tight end, 2 quarterback, just to make the points go up. And
because by then your teams are stacked.
Yeah.
Because the teams that are left when you get down to a 14 bye, like they they are so stacked that, if you're not expanding the roster, it's just not going to make the playoffs any fun. Like, you have to expand the roster to make it competitive.
And there's two different ways to do a Guillotine League. You can do where a team gets eliminated all the way until there's only one team, or you can do the 4-team playoff where after there's only 4 teams left, then you start a playoff, and then everybody's team is pretty much locked in for the rest of the 4 weeks, and you just play it out for total points at that point. And that's what we opted to go with.
Yeah, which in my opinion, I like better than the going all the way down to the one team, because that if you've got a good enough team to make it to the last 4 squads, then you deserve the opportunity to play in a playoff scenario, in my opinion. So you got any more slides you want to talk about with the guillotines, Trevor?
I think that's about it. I mean, other than the Ballsville thing, I know you had already talked to Alex about it, so I don't know if you had anything to speak on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can go ahead and we'll just pull this out for now. And so basically what we're going to do, guys, is we're going to go ahead and launch a Ballsville kind of mini game for the Guillotine League. So we're going to do a Guillotine League. It's not going to have a bracket. It's going to be a standard style Guillotine League with a playoff breakdown, just like what me and Trevor talked about on that breakdown there. So that's how we're going to do it. We're going to offer it up to our Ballsville VIPs. So any of you Ballsville members that are in here like crazy, please feel free to keep an eye out. We're going to post it in the hubs. We're going to get it out there for you guys here very soon, within the next day or two. And you guys can all jump in and start doing this. Right now, we're sitting at 25, right, Trevor, is what we were discussing.
Yeah, I believe so. We wanted to make it like not a huge investment, especially if it's a lot of people's first time. We don't really want to scare anybody away with a massive buy-in for now.
Exactly.
But if there's a lot of people that show interest, I'm not sure how many of these leagues we have planned on doing, but I guess it really just depends on the community and how much interest we hear about it.
Yeah, at this point, we have one league plan that's 18 players. If this league fills fast and there's a really good reception to these leagues, then, we're open to adding another one for you guys. If this Guillotine Leagues kick off and it's really an exciting thing, moving into the future seasons, we'll look to try to incorporate a bracket style with it. We've already been discussing it, and I think that by the end of the season, we'll be able to have a really, really good setup nailed down that you guys will love. But for now, we want to at least offer them up so that we have some fun with them this season. So we're doing them as individual games. And, we'll add leagues if need be, if there's enough interest as we go along. But for now, we're starting with one, and we're going to see where you guys are at with that. So, yeah, awesome. Alex, that's a good point, Alex. That's $25 times 18 people. So that's $450 prize pool there. And me and Trevor are going to manage this league, and we're not taking a rake on this. This is just going to be a straight all funds going in are going to go right back out to the payout to the players.
Very cool.
Awesome. So I hope everybody's excited about that, because me and Trevor are really excited about that. I love these leagues, and hoping that you guys are going to love them as much as we do. So let's move on to my favorite section of the draft, the trade talks. Let's do it. And we've got, luckily today, you guys have both of the trade partners involved in the 2 trades that we're talking about, one by me, one by Trevor, here today to talk with you so we can give you some insight on the background of these trades and all that good stuff. So we're going to start with Trevor's trade, and go ahead and pop that slide up there for us. Awesome. And so what we got here, this is a 6-team dynasty league that Trevor and myself are both in. And so being that this is only a 6-team league, you're starting 2 quarterbacks, 3 running backs, 4 wide receivers, 2 tight ends, 4 flex spots, and 2 super flex. So you have the opportunity to start 4 quarterbacks on your starting lineup in this league. We have the adjustments. It's standard scoring, other than the adjustments you guys see on the screen. Passing TDs are 6 instead of 4. There's a reception bonus for running backs that is a 0.25 reception bonus. And then your standard TEP of 1 point extra for tight end receptions. So the trade that Trevor made is Trevor received CeeDee Lamb, Jalen Hurts, and Trey McBride in exchange for CJ Stroud, the 103, the 203, and the 2025 first. So Trevor, go ahead and kind of start us off and let us know how this trade kind of played out and give us some insight on it before Ken and Sarah have an opportunity to talk about what they think.
So like you said, 16 Dynasty League. I don't know why I'm in this league. Sean convinced me, but yeah, when he says standard too, it's PPR. I guess PPR is Sean's standard now.
They call
But
it
yeah,
standard.
being
Right, they
16
don't-
league,
so-
the 203 pick is actually kind of like the 106. So they're pretty early picks there. And he had offered me a trade earlier in the season, CJ Stroud for Jalen Hurts, and for whatever reason, I didn't take it. And I had just happened to be scrolling through old trade offers that had been sent to me, and this kind of crossed my board, and was at it with him for probably about an hour trying to get a deal done. And this was probably one of the better deals that he had sent me, and I'm pretty happy with it. I have Jalen Hurts over CJ Stroud. I know a lot of the dynasty community doesn't feel the same way, so I can't be mad at it. CeeDee Lamb.
Absolutely. What do you think, Sarah?
Yeah. And you have how many other quarterbacks on your team?
We start 4, so
How many do you have, or who do you have? I should say.
I know he's got a decent crop, if I remember
I
correctly.
have Mahomes, Tua, Stafford, Howell, O'Connell, Kirk Cousins, and now Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, I mean, you have Mahomes and Hurts. That's fire. I really like this trade. I mean, honestly, for both of them, especially for someone that's like, depending on what the other person has, obviously, I don't know what their needs are, but I like both sides of these trades. But I think I like Trevor's just a little bit more because CD, Hurts, and McBride are going to give you so many more years of points. And it's like, getting rid of these picks is kind of like just getting rid of guys that you would have been getting that you're hoping are as good as someone like CeeDee Lamb or McBride. And who knows if they're going to be or not. So I really like this trade for Trevor. And I think it's a relatively fair trade. I mean, in regular dynasties, right, CeeDee Lamb goes for like 2, sometimes even 3 firsts, crazy stuff like that. So I really like this for Trevor.
I was a little lacking in the wide receiver. I mean, my best ones are probably Waddle, DK, Olave. And
this
then
helps a lot.
my tight ends are just awful. That was really what I was trying to go after. I only have Freiermuth and Chig. And you have to start 2 tight ends every week. So
oh, wow. So you still need to go get some more tight ends.
But now I don't have any picks. So I have
You knew somebody who had a stable of tight ends in that league.
Oh yeah, he's trying to rake me over
How many rookie rounds are there?
I think there's 6 rounds, so it's like 3 rounds because they'll need the 6 teams.
So you still have.
I think I have a 3rd and a 4th, 5th and 6th now still.
Yeah, that's awesome because those are early. Yeah, I mean, I think that's
which
really
if you
good.
count, I mean, you're only 6 picks per round. So,
Yeah, exactly.
an early 3rd is basically a 2nd round pick in a 12-team league.
Yeah, and you're getting tight ends in the 3rd round easy. So yeah.
Yeah, you can get Sanat potentially will be there for you in the 3rd round.
So yeah, Dynasty.
Go ahead, Ken. I want to hear Ken's opinion.
Where did Bowers go?
We haven't had the draft yet. We're still waiting on Sean's buddy to pay. So yeah, we don't know what the picks are.
This is tough.
Yeah,
I would. So I definitely take CJ Stroud over Jalen Hurts. I think for me, I can't believe I would take your side, Tortoise, just because of the fact that you know what you're getting. Improving talent. I think McBride's going to be a stud. CeeDee Lamb's a stud. Jalen Hurts, fine. CJ Stroud and Jalen Hurts is almost a wash. So it's kind of everything else. And I think in that case, then I would probably take your side, Tortoise.
Do you play in any of these 6-man leagues?
I do. I am actually in one. We just finished up our rookie draft today.
So where did Bowers go in that draft?
Bowers went.
Is it a similar lineup where you have?
So that's a different thing. So we start 3 quarterbacks, 3 wide receivers, 6 wide receivers, 3 tight ends, 3 flex, and 1 super flex. So that's just, of course, it's just a big lineup.
Yeah.
I would have to go back and look, but I still think Bowers went early. I think he still went in the first, but I would still take your side, even though I love Stroud.
See, I'm with you on that too. I mean, me and Trevor discussed this trade before he made it, so I'm obviously taking Trevor's side because it was the offer that we discussed he should send. So I'm definitely a fan of Trevor's side of it. I know that the 203 is basically like a 109, right? If you look at it like a standard league size, so that's still going to be a solid player there, but you're getting Lad McConkey, Jonathan Brooks, maybe in that range, right? So. Xavier Worthy, and then at 103, he's looking at like Jaden Daniels, potentially, maybe Neighbors, depending on his lineup build. So, if you look at it that route, like say it's Neighbors because we got the receiver to receiver. So you got CJ, Neighbors, we'll say Brooks, and then who's the 25 first, you don't know yet. So, if it was CJ, Neighbors, Brooks, and a 2025 first for CD, Hurts, and McBride, I'm taking the CD, Hurts, McBride side. So, that's kind of where I'm looking at it. So, that extra first in there doesn't do enough to make up the difference in the guaranteed value you're getting with CD, Jalen, and Trey.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, the other team is rebuilding.
So I think this kind of also depends on who's at each one of these spots. So I'm going to just, for the 6-man that we just finished up, the top 6 picks was in this order: Caleb Williams, Marvin Harrison Jr., Daniels, Neighbors, Bowers, and Adunze.
Okay, so then what? So at 9, basically, he would have gotten, like we talked about, McConkey or Brooks probably would have been like around there at that.
So in this league, range. May went 9.
May.
Yeah.
He's dropping.
So I mean, I'd still even with May, I'd still be happy with that trade because he's got enough quarterbacks to cover. He doesn't need that second quarterback right there. So, I think getting CD, like where would CD go in the rookie draft right now, right? Like he'd be right up in there, right behind Neighbors probably. He was a touted rookie coming out too. So, I definitely think CD is worth what Trevor gave up, in my opinion.
And this other team has been very aggressive after going after everybody's picks. I mean, I think he pretty much has the whole first and second round almost now.
Yeah, he's got mine too.
Yeah.
Which unfortunately happens to be the first round pick the first overall pick in this league.
And if that's your strategy, I mean, this is not a bad year to do that.
Yeah, I mean, full rebuild. Yeah, I mean, I also, Trevor, I really like Jalen Hurts a lot too. I have him a little bit ahead of Stroud just personally because of his running advantage.
Awesome. All right, so it sounds like we're all in agreement that by a slight margin that Trevor won this trade. So congratulations, Trevor. All right, actually go one more slide and we're going to come back to that one.
Okay.
With this other slide first. So this is the trade that I made, everybody. So let me kind of give you guys a little bit of breakdown on this because this trade talk is going to be a little bit different right here. We're going to be basically discussing a little bit more about the strategy than the specifics of the trade itself. We're going to talk about the trade, but we're going to basically kind of do a little bit more of a strategy discussion on this one because I feel like the strategy is a lot more interesting to talk about and how this played out. So, Sarah, can you give me the other slide?
The whole chat's losing it. We can't see Sean.
This one?
Yeah, there we go. Perfect. So this is one of our best Ballsville high-stakes redraft leagues that we're in. So to give you guys some context, the starting rosters are listed there: 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 receivers, 1 tight end, 2 flex, 1 super flex. The passing TDs are 2-point bonus, so they're 6 instead of 4. And the interceptions are an extra point off, so they're -2 instead of -1. So, your quarterbacks basically, they get a little bit for throwing touchdowns, but they also get a little bit worse for throwing interceptions. So that's kind of where we're at. My strategy in this, and any super flex, is to take quarterbacks early. That's always how I am. I usually don't go this crazy, but I do always go quarterback early in a super flex. So I was sitting at the 12 spot. The board fell around to me, and we were looking at Joe Burrow, Anthony Richardson, Jordan Love, Kyler Murray were the top quarterbacks on the board. So I decided to go ahead and snag my 2. I took Joe Burrow. I took Richardson right there. At that point, I'm approaching this like a normal draft. Okay, I took my 2 quarterbacks. I'll wait and see what happens when the board comes back around. The board fell back around. These guys decided not to go quarterback heavy at all, which shocked me, to be honest with you, being a super flex. And when it came back around to me, I decided at that point that I was going to institute a strategy that I've always wanted to try, but have never done. And, to be quite honest, I haven't had the Ballsville to do it. but this time I decided to go for it. So I went ahead and took 4 quarterbacks for my starting 4 picks. I took Justin Herbert and Jared Goff at the turn. So yeah, it definitely, yeah, you see, Joe, it definitely, that's exactly how my league reacted too. You know,
Definitely
and
was not
they all
happy.
went completely nuts. So following that, we went about 20 minutes of like, oh my God, what's wrong with you? You're crazy. I'm definitely not trading with you. You know, you're going to be stuck with all 4 of those guys all season. Ha ha ha, blah, blah, blah. And then by the time we got to pick 4-4, go ahead and flip over to the next slide for me, will you?
Well, this is the next slide. I don't know what you have else on here.
There it is. That's the one I need.
Oh, this one?
There, that one. Yeah, I'm sorry. They must have been back and forth.
Yeah, no worries, no worries.
So this trade got sent to me with a slight adjustment that I made on the counter within 2 picks. Within 2 picks. So the strategy that I was hoping for played out very, very quickly. I ended up getting this offer, which to me was, you know, I know it's a huge drop down. It looks very, very crazy, right? But the basic concept of this trade is that he took his 16th round, I believe it is. Let me make sure 1 second here. His 12th round, 11th round through 15th rounder, and sent them to me in exchange for my 18th through 21st, which are the last 4 rounds in the draft, and the 401 that I used to take off. So he basically wanted Jared Goff and swapped a 5-round block with me from the bottom of the draft up to the middle of the draft. And I added into that a swap for 3 picks in each the 5th and 7th round because he was 3 picks ahead of me in both those rounds. So I swapped my pick with him in both those rounds, took those 5-pick jumps across the board, and also took his $100 in fab, which basically wiped out his entire fab for the year. So it's a very intense trade. It looks pretty crazy, but you pretty much just look at it like 5 rounds from the bottom to 5 rounds to the middle for a 4th rounder and a couple of pick swaps in the 5th and 7th. So being all that, having that said, my thought to you guys is I want to hear your guys' opinion on this type of a strategy. And, you know, is this something you'd ever institute? Is it too crazy for you to even consider? Or do you feel like it's actually something that could turn out to be a really good win-win for you if you work it right?
I just don't think you had to take all his fab away. Like, that was unnecessary. You didn't take all his fab away for the whole season before it even starts. I mean,
well, it was offered to me, number one, with the fab. All I added was the 3-pick jumps in the 5th and 7th. Everything else was sent to me as an original offer.
I mean, it is a very deep league with these Ballsville redraft leagues. I mean, you basically have a dynasty team for a redraft league, so it's not like there's a whole lot of waiver claims. I'm assuming because there's really nobody left by the end of the draft anyway, so I could see that there. But I mean, now you can basically outbid anybody.
I want all your fab because I feel like it. Love that.
I think the 100 fab is what had to sell it. Well, I mean, 50 fab probably would have sold it, but still, I think the 100 fab was like, look, I'm giving you my 4-1, and all I'm asking in return as far as these early rounds is just to move up by 3, right?
Yeah, that was my money for sure.
Yeah, so
That
obviously the 11 through 15 is going to be fine, you know, and getting rid of your last 4 picks for it. That's a great trade-off for you. But, you know, the 100 fab just kind of solidifies, like, you know, I'm still giving you. And all of that for Jeff Goff. That's what I love, is that it was Goff. He didn't even go for Herbert with it.
You know, I was kind of surprised that Goff was the guy that he went for. I mean, honestly, I might have made that trade for Burrow. I would have just bumped his 11th rounder back up a few more rounds to like the 7th or 6th or something. But
yeah, totally.
Like, I mean, he wanted Goff, so hey, no more power to you, brother. But the point about the whole situation, which Ken, I know you're bursting at the seams here to talk about this, I'm sure, is that it like I got so much flack from the entire league for even doing that. Like just instant, just going crazy, like calling me names, telling me I'm stupid, this and that. Nobody's gonna trade you, you're ridiculous. Like, and then like not even 2 weeks later, this gigantic offer comes out on the board, and everybody's just again up in arms, like, oh my gosh, If you look at the trade, it's dropping from the 4th to the 11th. So it's really not like I got like extremely great value on that pick drop portion of it. Everybody's just looking at all the extra picks expansions. Yeah, my bench is the deepest it'll ever be in any league in this size. But, you know, that doesn't mean that I'm going to have a good enough starting lineup to be competitive.
I don't know, Ken, what do you think?
Sean, all I can say is adding the extra 100 fab was kicking the guy when he was down. like this trade, in my opinion, you just took full advantage of the guy, and it's like, hey, you're down, man. Give me your fab too. It's like the bully at like lunchtime. Like you just like went off. Like your late picks don't matter. So you got all this great depth, 100 fab. You can outbid everyone. It's like, oh, I'm the king at like recess now. So, Sean, all I can say is good job for you, man. But this trade, bad.
So you don't think that the drop from the 4th to the 11th makes it worthy for the jump set came about? Pretty hefty drop.
I got to be honest. Rounds 18 through 21, I'm taking those picks out completely in terms of value.
So you're basically saying that he gave me all that other stuff, and then I only gave him an 11th and a 12th or something? Your 11th and 7th and a 5th in exchange for a 7th and a 5th?
You basically gave him a 4, 5, and 7 for everything that you got.
I'm surprised he didn't try to like counter with like less fab, you know?
So the original offer was everything except for the 5 and 7 round swap. So
And the fab, right?
I didn't.
Oh,
I
it
didn't
was?
He did.
Oh, he really wanted Goff. That's what trips me out even more than the fab is that Goff.
I mean, I love Goff.
More than the other three to try and take with that big ass trade.
I am just trying to help. I'm trying to be a devil's advocate right now, but I'm struggling.
He feels bad. You feel bad for the poor guy.
I mean, I don't. His starting lineup is not terrible. Let me go there. I feel like I got to defend this guy a little bit because you guys are making me feel bad. But
I was the only team that had 2 quarterbacks at this point. Every other team had 1 quarterback, and he had 4.
Tortoise, we should talk more about some of.
No, you had 2, Trevor. You had 2 because you started.
That's what I'm saying. I'm the only team that had 2 quarterbacks at this point.
So there's a lot of desperation out there for the QBs.
We are in the 15th round, and I believe most of the teams only have 2 quarterbacks.
Yeah, well, because I turned around again later, which we didn't include in this because I didn't want to go too lengthy, but we got a few more minutes so I can continue it. I actually ended up trading Joe Burrow away when it came around in the 6th round, I believe it was. Was it the 6th round or 5th round? Let me just triple check. 5th round. I ended up trading Joe Burrow away to a guy for a trade that, according to Trevor, I lost, which the value wasn't as good as I prefer it to be. So I can understand why he would say that. But I ended up trading Burrow for Devontae Adams and a 7th rounder to jump from the 15th to the 7th.
So did you ever pick up another third quarterback?
I did. The reason I did that is because Trevor Lawrence was still on the board at 5'9" while I made that trade. So I turned around and picked up Trevor Lawrence right after that.
I kind of love that, honestly. I'm not a big Joe Burrow fan anymore. So
now my 3 stable quarterback is Anthony Richardson, Justin Herbert, and Trevor Lawrence.
Oh, man.
So I just want to point this out. Scott leaves. He hates Joe Burrow with a passion. And now Sarah's like, oh, you know what? I don't like Joe Burrow either. You know what? I will take Joe Burrow from any of you in any league for cheap.
I have him in like 2 out of 50 leagues. I just don't like him.
I would take Joe Burrow over Trevor Lawrence.
Oh, I mean, in a draft, sure, but I probably would have taken Jordan Love or Kyler Murray in that spot that you took Joe Burrow.
Oh, you take Kyler Murray over Joe Burrow?
What? You would take Jordan Love or Kyler Murray over Joe Burrow?
In that spot? Oh, hell yeah! If Joe Burrow didn't have his look, if Joe Burrow's hand wasn't half like broken and like just probably never going to be the same again, it'd be different. If it was pre-injury, it would be different.
I don't know. Burrow still showed me that he's a super stud quarterback when healthy. Like, it's hard for me to just dismiss him because I'm afraid that he's going to hurt himself.
I mean, he already hurt himself. That's what I'm saying. This is post-injury. We haven't seen him yet.
Well, we haven't seen anybody. It's the offseason.
I'm talking about post-surgery.
How do we talk more about Joe Burrow than we do about Tua?
Yeah, that's it, right?
Well, Tua's dropped quite a bit for sure.
Well, because
people are more confident in Tua right now than Joe Burrow. That's a great point, Ken. That's crazy.
Afterward,
guy's a concussion away. You know, Joe Burrow can go break another finger on his other hand, and he could still play football.
Exactly. Yeah, he gets concussed one more time, and the dude might not be able to walk, let alone play football.
Exactly.
So I mean, but everybody's drafting Tua like he's like a super stud. He got taken at 310 in this league just before
What?
Herbert and Goff when I
Whoa!
That's correct.
yeah,
Probably
he went
Jordan.
before Herbert and Goff. They were still on the board at 4, which is why I made that decision to do that at the time because there was 2 quarterbacks that I felt like should have not been there for me.
Holy crap! Tua went high.
Yeah, that is really high for Tua.
I don't take
whatever
Tua
about
over
him.
Goff though.
They took him over Herbert, Goff, and Caleb Williams.
Wow. Over Herbert, too?
No,
Jeez.
wow.
Yeah. I mean, the guy must really like his Tua, but that's again the injury situation. I feel like people are just forgetting because it's been so long. I mean, it was week 3 when he got that Bills concussion and all that, and like I think by week 6 he was back out there. Week 7, and then like he played the rest of the year, so everybody just kind of like forgot that the dude was like got like 3 concussions in 2 games and was literally like walking around on the field like a drunk guy at a sobriety. It doesn't make sense. Anyways,
I don't know anyone that would take Tua over Burrow, like in a draft though. Like I might wait and take Tua later just for the value instead of taking Burrow early or something, but I'm not going to take him before Burrow or something. You know what I mean?
What do you think about C-Bomb has a nice little comment here about Kyler over Burrow. Where do you put Kyler at? You said Kyler over Burrow already, right, Sarah? What about you two?
I have Burrow over Kyler.
Yeah, I would take Burrow over Kyler.
But Burrow does make me a little nervous because of his playoff schedule. It's pretty brutal. Like if you have him going into playoffs, I would not be happy.
Burrow going into playoffs? Really? I mean, like if he's
I
going
forget
into
what
playoffs, that means he's played all season, and he's probably going to be a top quarterback at that point. You're still not happy playing him?
I mean, I would just be nervous with the matchups that he has. I don't know what they are right off the top of my head.
I feel like Cleveland was in there, Tennessee. Yeah, we were just talking about this the other day too.
Yeah. Let me see.
But I mean, I don't know, man. It's so hard for me to fade a quarterback that was as good as Burrow was just because he had a season with injuries. He came out with injuries. He had 1 season with injuries, but he played healthy other than that. So.
It's the injuries that they were. It was because his throwing hand really is what the bigger deal is for people, including myself. It's not like it was just like he broke his toe or something,
Murray is going 2 rounds before Burrow on underdog. Is that true?
Yeah, probably just because of the
must be true. Daniel typed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think this is the case, especially in Dynasty for people. People are down on Burrow, and I get it. But at the same time, this is the time when I'm going to go buy. This is where I go trade Trevor Lawrence away and add a small piece to go pick up Burrow.
Yeah,
Because-
like Jonathan Mingo.
Because I think this is the time for anyone who wants an elite quarterback that's in the top 10. This is a quarterback that you can now go buy at a very better value than a couple years ago when he was at his peak. You're probably going to buy Burrow right now at his floor, and this is where I want to go buy him at. So that's kind of why in leagues, especially in Dynasty, where I'm just buying him up when I can, if I think it's a great value.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one, man. I'm definitely buying Burrow in leagues. Like I only sold him in this league because I went into that draft with that strategy. And once I committed and took the 4, I was like, I'm definitely going to take offers and look to move 2 of these guys and pick up a 3rd if possible to kind of build back up to that elite status on some of my position players. And, it obviously worked out pretty well from what Ken had to say about my trade because, that was very begrudging of Ken to be able to talk about my trade like that. I'm telling you guys right now. Ken did not want to have to give me any more props after last week.
I get it. And I get why people still want to trust Burrow. I totally get it. So it's just, for me personally.
Yeah. I mean, the whole goal of this is exactly what happened, man, is it converted the entire draft for a lot of these guys, man. They started taking quarterbacks that they weren't going to take, letting other players drop, offering up trades that they normally wouldn't and things like that. So, if your goal is to shake up the draft and throw people off their game and be able to give yourself an opportunity to maximize the benefit of that, then by all means, man, take that strategy and run with it because it obviously worked here.
It works. It really does.
There was a lot of like uproar in the league about the whole trading thing, and I wasn't sure if the rest of the players just weren't aware that this was a thing for the Ballsville leagues. But how do you guys feel about that? Trading draft picks in like a redraft scenario like that? Is that like a common thing that you guys see all the time, or?
It's a good question because that was a bit of a point of contention.
I think
I
for
missed
me,
that this was a redraft.
in past leagues with redraft, it's kind of, for me, it's been split. Sometimes they allow it and sometimes they don't. Usually if it's no draft, if there's no trading of draft picks, your clock is shorter compared to if you can trade, your clock's going to be longer. To me, if there's no really lopsided trades, let people trade. I mean, that's part of the game. And I understand how some people don't like to trade during redraft, but I think it just adds another component to being a fantasy football player.
100%. Another tool in your tool bag.
It's true. It's true. I play with a lot of people who just like they hate it when there's no trades during the draft. They don't care if
it's a
redraft
small draft and there's no trades. My first question every time is why.
Yeah.
Why are we doing a small draft if we're not having any trades here? Let's just all get together and spend about 2 hours one night and knock this shit out and be done with it. There's no reason for us to sit here and spend 4 hours to make a pick if we don't have any opportunity to trade it.
Yeah, I could see like both sides of the argument. I mean, most of you people are coming from dynasty leagues anyway, so you're very used to the trading of draft picks, especially startups or during a rookie draft. So I'm sure it's just they don't really see it too often if you're coming for only redraft leagues.
Yeah, and I understand that if you're not used to it, I can get how it throw you off your game. But I mean, we had one specific commenter who decided to tell everybody that his analytics and his knowledge base was so much better than everybody else that the trades are nullifying his advantage that he has over us by knowing so much more. So to me, that argument didn't hold any weight to me because I was like, well, the same amount of players are going before or after your pick, whether I'm trading or not. So I don't see where you're losing an advantage at all because I'm not adding an extra pick between your next two picks, buddy. So I don't understand where your advantage is lost. But according to him, his argument is that I guess it allows another team to take advantage of the trade option to the point to where he can't keep up, basically. Because their advantage is so much higher now. Yeah, but to me, it's not. My response to that is make some trades yourself, bro. Learn how to do some trades too, man, and use it as a tool to build your team better. Since you're so much better at doing it this way, if you learn how to do it with trades, imagine how great you'd be then, right?
That's really what it is. If you're going to join a league that has certain rules to it, then don't join it if you don't want to trade. But otherwise, people are going to trade.
Yeah, and don't be upset if the trades are happening and, throw out a novel about how much more knowledgeable you are and how this is nullifying your knowledge base and this and that, because all you're going to do is alienate the rest of the league.
If I were you, Sean, I would have sent him one of your crazy trades just right after he said that.
Oh, I got in trouble for instigating. But, I mean, I'm an instigator in the threads just because I feel like it throws people off their game and it makes my draft a little better potentially. So it's all just like this. It's the Survivor style of drafting, basically. I love all you guys. We're all going to be great friends as soon as this draft is over, I promise.
Right.
Awesome. All right. So I think we're pretty good there, guys. I feel like we did a great job today. I mean, we missed Ken, we missed Scott, obviously, but we definitely tried to hold our own. I hope you guys felt like we did a decent enough job with that. One thing we couldn't do, which I definitely want to mention, is that I was not able to get the list of new players in Ballsville for this week. So next pod, we are going to incorporate all the Ballsville new players over the last couple of weeks to announce so that we can sit here and watch Scott struggle while it scrolls on the bottom screen and tries to read it. So that's basically how we're going to approach that part of it. I really hope you guys enjoyed this time. We were all, coming here to have a great time to talk with you guys. We appreciate you guys being here and love the fact that you guys are listening in on this. And, Feel free to chime in on the comments with anything you'd like to say. If you guys are looking to get in any of these leagues and you're not able to get in on the link that we put there, you can reach out directly to us through Sleeper. Any one of us would be more than happy to help direct you to the right place to get in some of these leagues. They're a lot of fun, and you'd have a blast. So, for the Ballsville crew, I'd like to say thank you so much. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Trevor. Everybody for being here, and I hope you guys enjoyed. We'll see you next week.
That's a wrap.
Night.
Peace out, everybody.